Humans United and Mutual Aid Networks is a global umbrella cooperative that aims to connect people and projects and organizations, businesses, essentially everyone in a network of mutually beneficial aid and support. We realize that most humans around the world really want to live in peace and abundance and need to cooperate in order to meet their needs. Humans and every living system is a mutual aid network on its own. We're all a network of symbiotic relationships. And what we do in our version of mutual aid networks, we've been using the term since about 2014. So before it really caught on in disaster relief terms, which is also very respectable. But what we are about is redesigning the economy to be built on principles of mutual aid and create dynamics that both foster, reward, facilitate more and more mutual aid so we can start to really realize an economy that does bring us together in abundance through cooperation. So our mission is actually to create means for everyone to discover and succeed in work they want to do with the support of their community. And when we say everyone, we are really serious. We talk about creating the economy that works for the 100%. And what that means in practice is inviting people into different forms of work where mutual aid is a built-in part of the compensation and reward. And we use good peer-to-peer work practices to reduce hierarchy and really increase the ability for people to find their calling, essentially find what they're good at, be able to build their skills with support from their community. Again, realize that everyone has something to offer, that we all need and benefit from reciprocity, and that everyone has a place, clearly, in the world. Everyone deserves to have their needs met, and that we can do that ourselves. So we're really focused on creating the world we want to ourselves, not asking someone for permission, not asking for permission, not demanding that someone else create this for us. So realizing that we're actors in our economy. The reason we focus on economy is that the dominant competitive economy that's built on bank debt money is driving us apart from each other. It's driving the inequalities that we're seeing. It's driving the decimation of our planet and our communities. So what we realize is we are creators of the economy and we can do it differently. There are a lot of different economic tools that have been used throughout human history that have dominated at different times and have really driven social dynamics in different directions. There are a lot of intact communities now that manage to meet the needs of themselves and each other, even right around us. We can look to Amish communities. We can look to intact extended families. We can look at a lot of immigrant communities who've had to pool their resources and money by necessity. So a lot of what we're doing in Humans United in Mutual Aid Networks is realizing our current context, adopting and using good new tools, such as communication tools, internet tools, but also good models of governance, really building and understanding and abiding by core principles. So we're a values based community that's based on values that are combined from time banking core values, which I'll explore a little bit more later when we talk about time banking, which is a key practice for us, but also principles of governance of the commons. That's one of the big pieces that's really important for our humans mutual aid networks, is rebuilding the commons and recognizing that sharing is the number one way to create and maintain abundance, and really relearn how to create commons and how to steward commons well and work together to maintain and steward some healthy land, water, air, food. So all of those things that humans really need for a lively humanhood. So that's another framing that we have, is that everyone deserves to discover and succeed in work they want to do and have a lively humanhood, not just a basic livelihood or a basic income that we rely on a government hierarchical structure to provide for us, but that we provide for each other. So we realize the world has all that we need. We have what we need if we share what we have. It's an adaptation of a quote from the late great Edgar Kahn. Um, so we are the way that we work is we, as the Humans Global umbrella, we connect a lot of people and practices. We have different sister sites that are running mutual aid networks in their own locations. So we have one here in Madison, Wisconsin, where I live, called the M.A.N Cooperative. Part of the reason we chose mutual aid networks as our terminology is we really like the acronym the MAN, because we do want to co-opt business as usual. We want people to have their dream life, their lively humanhood working for the man, because we're the new the man. And the Madison Man Cooperative is working on a number of fronts, but a big piece of what we have been built on and continue to build on is restorative and transformative justice, or community justice. So we do a lot of work for community peace practice, creating uh, creating opportunities for people to come together and take their own journey, learning how to prevent and transform conflict, learning how to apply restorative justice. So when things do happen, people know how they can deal with it without involving police. So that's one piece of what we do, and we share that with the rest of the world. We've had other places emulate parts of what we've done over the years, and we use uh, sharing cooperative economic practices as the backstop to both resource those projects, but also reweave the community ties that really uh, get people's needs met, prevent people getting in trouble in the first place. So we're also really focused now on creating more of a health and care network that's more formalized, so people can meet their needs when they're ill, when they have a disability, when they have a baby, when they need a break. So those are some of the things we're working on here in Madison, and we share in a community of practice, sharing knowledge, sharing materials, sharing tools. One of our other sister sites is Hull in the UK, and they're really focused on local food production and really connecting communities, especially where refugees are coming in, connecting people with the community around them, providing opportunities for people to cook their own food of their culture, which they often aren't getting when they're in a refugee migrant situation. So we also have sister sites in rural South Africa, in St. Louis, in different places around the U.S., UK, now Slovenia, France, and we're working to New Zealand, working to increase that all the time. But the sister sites and the partners are all their own projects that find ways that connecting in this network of mutual aid networks could benefit them, their material needs, their need for knowledge sharing. So we connect. We're about the communities of practice, but then we also provide tools for people. So our vision has always been to lower the barriers for people to do regenerative community work that's resourced through mutual aid practices, but also increase people's ability to meet those barriers. So we do a lot of peer support in actually doing the work that's needed to do to create and run an organization like this. So really, it's about taking the economic tools that we think make sense and applying them toward smart division of labor and pooling of risk and all those functions that the economy takes on. This is really a matter of our understanding those functions, realizing it's not rocket science, but even if it were, people can do rocket science. And if there's a reason to do something that's as difficult as rocket science, I think creating dynamics that actually can give us enjoyable lives, regenerate families, communities, and neighborhoods, watersheds, and the planet. I think it's worth doing. And a thing that I think is really important for us to acknowledge is what we're talking about in the vision of networked mutual aid networks is people and communities having autonomy, self direction, self governance, problem solving in their own way. It does get us to environmental health and well being. It does get us to more healthier impact on climate and perspective on climate, without having to agree on what the problems are and what the potential solutions are, and without having top down autocratic solutions. And even though we work with uh, pretty advanced and forward thinking technology, it is not technocratic. It's about rebuilding the community connections, the real connections. So we talk on, unfortunately, we talk on online platforms a lot, which has helped bring us together across the world, but nothing substitutes for people being together in person, and nothing substitutes for the actual relationships that are generated spending time together. So even when we need to spend time together online because we're far away, those relationships are really what have been the strength of the humans, humans united in mutual aid networks. And that's what we're doing with the technology and the tools, is building a bridge from where we have been and where we currently are in economic and community life toward where we need to be, where we actually are a human family. At that point, we won't need the accounting tools. And we really see this as building a bridge from here to there, create networks of real trust in communities of place or communities of practice, because we're exchanging and sharing in values aligned ways, and then create networks of trust between those because we're doing the same thing, sharing and exchanging in values aligned ways. And the way I envision is that everyone joins your team, then you win. So I'll go into some of the tools that we use. So we created just a simple way to look at things. Uh, we have one practice that we call posterity budgeting, which is how you have a posh life on an austerity budget. But it's really how you make visible all these the real wealth that you really rely on, which is again a lot of social relationships, care networks, things like that. So we look at how we can displace our monetary needs with things that create more abundance. And then we created this pyramid. So the top is the broad part, and it's plan A through F. So when you need something, you first look at how to get it or how to provide for that need that creates the most abundance. And that top level of abundance is sharing. So this can be as simple as I have a washer and dryer and you can use it, or as complicated as a maker space where, or a fab lab where people have high level, heavy duty equipment or high tech stuff, and provide training, and people get a chance to use those in a formalized setting. We have a sharing project here called Everywhere Gardens, which is about matching underused space. So my yard, for example, of someone who doesn't enjoy gardening, matching that with people who like to garden, who want to teach gardening, and really be able to regenerate soil, grow things where they're best suited to grow, pool what's grown. So then we exchange stuff. You can just freely share things from the garden. So those are some examples of sharing, and plan A, taking from the top of the pyramid. And then the next level, I've referred to time banking a couple times, but the next level of abundance is banking your time or your stuff. And this I consider just exchanging like for like. So, for example, we do a lot of swaps where you can just bring stuff, leave something, and take something, and it's very loose. We're taking a loose approach in time banking also. So, what time banking is it's a practice where you join together in a network of mutual credit. So, people, individuals, organizations, businesses decide to extend credit to each other, and every in time banking, every hour that someone spends helping another member, you earn an hour in your account, an hour's worth of credit. We don't put a price on our time, and everyone's time is valued equally. Um, so, for example, I've taught piano lessons. I've done mock interviews for the Urban League here to help people build their job skills. I've helped people move, and I've had people do my shopping nearby. I've had pictures framed. I had a music video made. Everyone's hour was valued the same way for all of those things. And the way we view time banking is it's exactly as abundant as it needs to be, or it's infinitely abundant. And it's good for catalyzing exchange, and rewarding exchange and valuing exchange in things that are infinitely abundant, like care and creativity, and civic engagement, and community work. I think of all those things as very um, excellent candidates for exchanging via time banking. Um, so yeah, so that's the next level of abundance is if you need something that there isn't a shared resource, exchange your time or exchange your stuff. Then we're also really interested in supporting and bolstering local business and a healthy local business environment. So we also can use mutual credit in a similar way. You're connected in a network where people and businesses decide to extend credit to each other, but it has a price. So here it's in dollars. So I do co-own a coffee house. So my coffee house could buy a cooler from another business for $2,000 worth of credits, but we would account for that like cash. We would pay the taxes on it. But we owe that $2,000 back in goods and services to the network. There's another tool that we're using here locally called Common Good. And this is another example of mutual aid. What we realize is there are a lot of people working toward cooperative economic solutions all over the world. And what we need to do is connect with them and again, sort of hire each other to create the system, and support each other instead of everyone just toiling on their own. But that moment is happening. People are really coming together um, across a lot of these communities to share tools. But the Common Good Card is run out of Massachusetts, and they've just figured out a really great way to connect the business world and community economics. So people put money on a fee-free debit card, and all the money for a community sits in one account. And they make it easy to round up on your purchases, and it's really easy to use the card at a business. And then while that money's sitting on our account, we can decide to lend it out to members of the community under whatever terms we decide. But there are a lot of really cool ways that they've figured out. So we just use that here. And we're one of the communities of practice, and we share that practice with other communities to try. All right. So next step on the pyramid is Plan D. If you can't use mutual credit, there's not a shared resource, you can't time bank or swap something, and you just really need money, dollars for us. Plan D, decentralize, decentralize the risk, de-escalate the stress, and pool your money. So we call this a common fund. And what we're doing is adopting a practice. Again, a lot of immigrant communities use it out of necessity. It's also, we were inspired by the African American tradition of mutual aid societies from the early 20th century, where people would raise money through social functions and member dues, and then use that pool of money to pay health expenses and funeral expenses for members, but also throw big parties and really bring the community together. So we've also learned from New Zealand savings pools and from the Yacht Bank in Sweden. But the Yacht Bank in Sweden had, I think, around 40,000 members. Savings pools in New Zealand tend to have around 10 members. So we're hybridizing these things and calling it a common fund, where we put money in a pool. You can give it out as no interest loans. You can create an emergency fund. So we're practicing with that a bit, just in a small way here in Madison, but really looking to step up that effort. I mentioned earlier the idea of a lively humanhood. And what I know can happen, and this is something that we're aiming to actually experiment with, is that we could fill a common fund and have it be a money backstop for a core group of people who are then posterity budgeting their way into needing less and less of that money, raising their capacity to bring in more money. I think we can do that and start having people really earn a livelihood in a mutual aid network way that could grow and spread. So that's a thing we'll be doing this year, and inviting people to support and participate in. Um, so plan F on the little pyramid at the very bottom of the pyramid. All else fails, get a effing job. And this is another aspect of recognizing how we can do it ourselves, work redesign, and do it ourselves, voluntary, joyful wealth redistribution. Because many of us, most of us, still need an effing job in order to pay the bills that enable us to keep living in this society. And we really recognize that. And maybe if you can see your way toward working 30 hours instead of 40 hours at the Quick Trip, because you're able to use time banking to get respite care for your parent, or to get the kind of complementary health care that's keeping, reducing your medical bills, or whatever the things are. If you can work 30 instead of 40 hours at your effing job, someone else can work those 10 hours at that effing job. And I think a lot of the effing jobs need to disappear. So that's another aspect when we look at the decimation of the planet and of our communities and society, is most of the people, well, I guess I would have to say just probably all of the people carrying that out are hired to do that. The people who believe they own everything and enforce that through force and domination, they're not really out there, you know, shooting people on the street, at that, for the state, or they're not out there logging the forests or strip mining. And people at a grassroots level have solutions that they can implement. And there are a lot of, yeah, anyhow, that's another thing that we've been learning about, is different ways people are applying really cool ways of organizing and solving problems at a local level. And I'll just mention one, which we learned about at a Solidarity Summit recently, which I'll say what that is in a moment. But we learned about this model called neighborocracy that's being used in India, where they're organizing people block by block, and every person on the block has a role, and they're responsible for a sticky problem, including children. Um, and then the rest of the neighborhood is like their team in problem solving, and they are making amazing things happen. And there's another group that's working on adapting that for the UK cultural context, which is radically different, and then ours, of course, is radically different. But that's an aspect of what mutual aid is really about, is learning from each other that way. And what the Solidarity Summit is we and the humans realized that people really need an invitation to come together to and be able to find each other. So it started during COVID lockdown, so we could only be on Zoom a lot of the time. But we started every quarter having a summit, a solidarity summit that everyone's invited to. So you're all invited to this. And it's always on the weekend closest to the solstice or the equinox, so you know when to look for it. So we have another one coming up December 16th and 17th. But again, every quarter, it's just a really good way to connect and find other people doing mutual aid. So while that humans is a cooperative, you can join. We really want people to join. Helps us, helps you, I think. So we have a variety of ways you can be a member, and then you can exchange in these ways through mutual credit, time banking, sharing, but especially join the knowledge sharing stuff. So we want people to become members, and we want everyone to participate and find their way into whatever form of mutual aid economy with little letters. So you don't have to be a member. You don't have to be a sister site or partner site. We want people to participate and find each other however it works. But we also really like it if you become members. Join the humans.